To kind of say that half of my talk tonight is going to be in tribute to my two main sources and two people that I really admire a lot in the world of Loganamnacha, and also to pay tribute to yourselves indeed as well, because there are some brilliant local historians and people who have written a lot about Loganamnacha in the past. And I'll be referring to them as we go along as well. So you may see some familiar faces in the slides as we go along. It's great to be back in this building here. The last time I was here, apart from having a meal down below in the restaurant, was I worked here years and years ago, a summer job, when the old the telephone exchange was in the post office downstairs, and I was the evening telephonist on the phones down there. So that's not today nor yesterday, but it's great to be back anyways in McMillan's again. And you're all very welcome. So we see so many familiar faces in the audience. I feel I'm among friends, and that there mightn't be too many rotten tomatoes coming my way tonight. So without further ado, I'll get going anyway. So the title is The Placenames of Burrishoole, Their Translators and Meanings. So you're probably wondering why it's translators rather than translations, but we'll come to all the translations later. But like I said, it's partly to pay tribute to a lot of the translators themselves, and to kind of introduce a few other subjects other than history and geography, and just to kind of broaden the topic out a little bit, if you like, and see, because I feel we're always learning new things, so it's good to learn different subjects, for want of a better word. So the summary of the presentation tonight, I'm going to introduce toponymy and what it means, and then I'm going to speak about Mayo toponymists and their writings. I'm going to refer briefly to where a lot of the information comes from, mainly from annals, geologies, maps, rent rolls and census data. Then I'm going to get down more to the actual place names themselves, the regions, the areas, the baronies, the parishes and the townlands, and focus in specifically on this barony of Burrishoole and the Owls and how that came about, or why it's called the Owls. Then I'm going to go through some sample townland names. I won't put you through the whole list of the 340 odd names of the townlands that are in Burrishoole parish. But if there's any favourite ones that you'd like to discuss, we'll be able to go back to those at the end. And I have a slide then on kind of common root words that appear time and again in different townland names. And finally, I'm going to revisit some of the places in Burrishoole that I've already visited in my articles for the Mayo News. So, placing the subject in context, there's just three words that I'd like to define from the outset. And the first one is etymology. You've all probably heard of etymology. It's the study of the origin of words and the way in which their meanings have changed throughout history. Then toponymy is the taxonomic study of place names based on etymological, historical and geographical information. So this is where we get into the historical area. And a place name then is a word or words used to indicate, denote or identify a geographic locality such as a town, a river or a mountain. Then the third word, which I only came across in the last few years when I started this work, is a word called onomastics. And onomastics is the study of names. That's the actual fancy word for studying all names. It can be called onomastics or onomatology. But onomastic covers the meaning of all things, including place names, which are toponyms, and personal names, anthroponyms. And toponymy then is one of the most important branches of onomastics. So that's basically the introduction. So moving on, we're very lucky here in Mayo in that we have two very extremely, we had two very extremely erudite onomasticians, if you like, that were born, and two of them were born in the county, and another man worked in the county. I'll come to them in a minute. But the first man I'm talking about really is this person here. He's called Nullig O'Marila, and he was born in the townland of Drum, which is known locally as Wingfield. It's just near Knock in County Mayo, and that's a very good example of how lots of townland names they get the names change over the years, and they become known by a more local name, if you like. And this is one particular one, this one of Drum, which is known, as I said, as Wingfield. Now, I've corresponded with Nullig a few times over the years by email and stuff like that, and I've had debates with him about over my interpretation of some of the words and his original interpretation of the word. But the reason I'm putting up his CV here, I'm not going to bore you by reading down through it. You can all read it for yourselves. But basically, it's just an illustration of how deep this man has gone into the whole study of place names. And I think probably 2 or 3 of the most significant things are that he has his doctorate in Irish. He worked with the Place Names branch of the Ordnance Survey for 11 years. He was attached to the Celtic department in QUB in Belfast for, another 11 years, and he was at the Department of Irish for 10 years. But more significantly, he was a member of the Place Names Commission, officially from 2003 to 2013. And actually, if you look up loganum.ie website, you'll see that according to government data, Nullig is still a member of the committee that adjudicates place names all around the country. So he's very much deeply immersed in this whole subject. And he spent probably his greatest contribution to academia, or to academic research, was the 30 years that he spent editing a book that was actually written back in the 1700s, 16 or 1700s. I'll find the exact date for you later on. It was written by a person from northeast Mayo called Dultach Mac Irvishig, which, like everything else in this country, has been anglicised to Dudley Forbes, if you don't mind. So, good old Dudley. But it's just, the author Mac Irvishig was his original name, and he wrote a book called Lower More Nanyanach, the Great Book of Irish Genealogies. And it was comprised 5 volumes, 3,500 plus pages, and it was republished in Nullig's edition in 2004 by Eamon de Borca in Dublin, who's also another Mayo man. And in 1985, Nullig himself wrote a beautiful little book called Mayo Places, Their Names and Origins. He contributed to the Clare Island Survey in 1999, and he also contributed a number of chapters to Mayo History and Society in 2014. And just to jog your memories, you probably have seen some of these books before, but this is what they look like. This is his book from 1985, Mayo History and Society, which I know Paddy will be very familiar with. In the middle here, it was actually edited by Nullig and Gerard Moran. And there's a fantastic chapter in the first volume of the new survey of Clare Island, which details history and cultural landscape. There's a fantastic chapter on all of the place names of Clare Island, which Nullig himself compiled. The second hero of mine is just before I get to that, this is just to show you some of his writings. Oh, and the reason I showed this front cover from the Journal of the Galway Archaeological and Historical Society is that in 2004, is it? Nullig contributed a paper to this journal on matters onomastic. So that's where I came across the word onomastics. And this other book on the right there that was edited by Bernard O'Hara on Mayo, Nullig contributed 3 chapters to that as well. So the second person, Lord rest him, is Fiachra McGowan. Fiachra is a complete hero of mine because he was responsible for writing this book called Uaile, which came out in 10 volumes in 2014, and it was also came out on a CD-ROM. And basically it details all of the place names in Mayo. I just revert back a second just to Fiachra's CV, if you like. Again, he studied actually under Nullig. He did his PhD in onomastics under Nullig Uaile, and another professor called Uaile at the Department of Celtic Studies in Queen's in 2005. He, up to his untimely death 5 years ago, he worked in the College of Continuing Education in Castlebar, and but at a very early age he contributed a chapter to volume 7 on the place names of County Antrim between 1992 and 2004. Then the chapter 6 of the place names of Mayo in Mayo History and Society was also written and contributed by Fiachra McGowan, and as I said, his magnum opus, if you like, is this book, and that is the Bible that I refer to all the time when I want to cross-check that I'm talking about the real meaning of the particular townland that's under study at the time. So this is just a summary. I don't expect you to read this either. This is just a summary of the 10 volumes, which comprise 7,291 pages, published in 2014. And as you can see, I've highlighted all of the baronies. There are 9 baronies associated. All are in part. There's 7 of them totally within Mayo, and there's parts of other baronies that come in from Sligo and Galway and places nearby. But Burrishoole and Morrisk are probably the 2 principal ones that we'll be looking at tonight. These are examples of books that Fiachra has contributed to, and the one in the middle there is one by Father Edmund Hogan. It was Onomasticum Godelicum was the name of it, and this was a little journal that was published by the Irish Text Society. It was brought out to commemorate this book that was written nearly 100 years ago, but it's all to do with the place names from the Godelic languages, which are in contrast to the Brittonic languages, which includes English, and the Godelic languages include Irish. So Fiachra contributed a chapter to that book called the Mayo Place Names of Early Patrician Literature. And a lot of these actually are concerned with, they're all concerned with wherever St. Patrick visited within the county of Mayo. But he also contributed to Bélegis, Icha Fela Oni Dori, that was all about Bonfire Night on Tory Island in 2015, written in Irish by Fiachra. But the other book that he wrote, or paper that he wrote, was concerning the Táin Bó Flihisha, which I know people in Carrataig have written extensively about. There's a committee in Carrataig that have brought out a book on the route of the Táin Bó Flihisha, and they're hoping to have a whole series of cycling and walking routes that follow that. But there are numerous place names outlined in that book, which was written 500 or 600 years ago, that are still extant, and it makes for very interesting reading to try and see where they originate. So the fact that they're in Newport tonight, we cannot forget local historians, and I was just talking to Michael before the chat tonight, Michael Hughes, and he very kindly showed me an original copy of the book on the left, which Leamy, my friend in the front row here, republished some years ago, called A Short Account of the History of Burrishoole Parish by Pádraig O'Moran. I'm sure you're all very familiar with that book, so I don't need to dwell too long on it here. But suffice to say that one of my neighbours in Westport is a nephew of Pádraig O'Moran's, John Moran, who lives in Clonard, and John and I have many discussions about the different townlands in Burrishoole and Morrisk, and also down in Erris, where John spent his summers. And I actually wrote one article one week on a townland outside Belmullet where he spent his summer. And you published in the Burrishoole Parish magazine, somebody contributed an article, I think it was in 2015, that you actually were in discussion with Fiachra at the time about recording the place names and townlands in this area. So I just said I'd jog your memories on that. So apart from those sources that I've just gone through, the sources that the experts use to try and pinpoint the origin of the toponyms and the meaning of the place names, they refer back to this book. For example, this is just one book, the Great Book of Irish Genealogies, which I've referred to already, and it was compiled originally between 1645 and 1666. And there are all sorts of other annals like this, like I've only listed a few of them here, like the Annals of the Kingdom of Ireland, or Annals of the Four Masters, as it's known as more usually, which was contributed to by John O'Donovan, the great place names expert of the Ordnance Survey, who's always quoted, and he's one of the main reference points for place names. Then you have the Annals of Inishfallen, Clonmacnoise, Chearnach, and the Annals of Ulster. William Ball's map of Mayo, which appeared in, it was the middle 1800s, but it was in 20 or 12 different sheets. It's an extremely detailed map. There's a copy in the library in Castlebar, but that has loads of place names listed on it as well. And of course, you have the likes of Lord Sligo's rent rolls from Westport House, Griffith's valuations, which always gets a reference in the loganum.ie and townlands.ie, these two websites. They always refer back to Griffith's valuations and to the census of 1901 and 1911 as well, which is a very good way of getting more information on the particular townland. Who lived there, who owned it, who farmed it, or whatever. So, getting closer finally to where we are tonight, there are 7 baronies that are wholly in County Mayo. That's Burrishoole, which has 416 townlands. Then there's Cara, Clanmorris, Erris, Gallen, Morrisk, and Tiroli. And there are 73 civil parishes in County Mayo alone, and Burrishoole is also the name of a parish. And there are 171 townlands in the parish of Burrishoole as opposed to the barony of Burrishoole. So, depending on which source you check, there's various estimates of the total numbers of townlands in Mayo and in each barony. But according to Fiachra, McGowan in Loganamnacha Uaile, there are 3,446, including 194 islands. Then in townlands.ie, the number comes up at 3,422, and from Wikipedia it's 3,424, so they're pretty close. Burrishoole then, again, it contains 333 townlands on the mainland and 416 when you include all of the islands offshore. I'll come to the location and historical evolution of the Owls in a moment, but I'm also going to discuss the townland names and the root words of same. But just first of all, to show you where the baronies all kind of fit together. And the interesting thing is that originally the Owls were all of the coastal part of Achill, Burrishoole and Morrisk. These were the Owl region. Now, I have a very simplified theory that Uaile, or Owl, which we'll be coming to it in a minute, it can mean apple or something like that. That's the literal translation of Uaile in modern Irish, which is far removed from Old Irish. But the original Uaile, I feel that it could have something to do with the corruption of Uaile, because it's the place of the O'Malleys, the Uailes, and Uaile. I think it's more closely connected to that than anything modern. So, but this slide basically summarises what I've just said, that the area all around Clew Bay, on the west coast of Mayo, has long been known as Uaile, and it's always spelled Umhall. The area of this district is not accurately described in indigenous historical sources. I'd say there just aren't any indigenous historical sources that go back far enough to describe the area, really, and you kind of have to go across the water to find original literature describing this area. But what I do know, and I can tell you, that of all the places listed in Loganamnacha Uaile, and there's more than 4,000 different toponyms in those 10 volumes. Burrishoole holds the record at 309 entries for the greatest number of references to the name in historical sources. So it obviously was a puzzle for a lot of people for a long time as to what it actually means. Now, if you break it down, Burrish is an easy bit. It's the burgage or the barony or the borough of Uaile. Now, some scholars contend that Uaile means bitter place. This is the real Old Irish translation of Uaile, with the question mark suggesting that the meaning is as yet unclear. And like some other scholars, more recent, like Professor Uaile, I think at NUIG or at UCG, he and a couple of other scholars, they were trying to even get a connection between Uaile and Uaile apple, but it sounds a bit too tenuous. That's why I'd like to throw in my tuppence halfpenny worth and say that it could be connected to the Uailes, the Uailes. The civil parishes in the barony of Burrishoole then are Achill, part of Ahagower and part of Ballintubber, Burrishoole itself, Kilmaclasser, Kilmena and part of Uaile. Back in the Ormond deeds of 1576, there were 3 separate divisions of the whole Uaile, or the Owls. There was Uaile, which is why I'm going for that. There's Uaile Clan Philibine, or Philbin's Uaile, and there was Uaile Ichtracht. So these were the 3 separate parts of the Owls, back listed in the Ormond deeds of 1576. So, telescoping down even further now, that the most common root words of Burrishoole townlands are the ones I've listed here. You have Derry, Knock and Ross. These are from Dira, which means thicket or little oak wood. Knock is a hill and Ross is a promontory. And there are more Rosses between here and Westport and between here and Mulrenny than there are. Far more of them in this area than there were everywhere in Donegal or anywhere else. But it's interesting because Ross is a root word that can mean both promontory or wood. So depending on whether you're in the northern half of the country or the southern half of the country. 2 other common ones then are Litcher and Taunach, which are translated to letter, and Tauna or Tawny. And a Taunach, for anyone that's good at Irish, is an arable green area in an otherwise boggy mountainside. So when next time you're walking up a hill, Tom Dempsey, and you come to a little green patch that the sheep are enjoying and chewing away on, that's probably a taunach in the midst of all of the heather and bog and so on. A litcher then is a soggy, wet hillside, and we have many lectures and wet, spewy hillsides in West Mayo, as you all know. So the qualifying words then that go with the root words are usually the first half of the name of the townland, and the qualifiers are the other half. So they can be more unique and unusual. So like you have umpteen Rosses and umpteen Derrys and the whole lot, and we can discuss any of them you wish. Some townland names appear only in English. They don't have an Irish translation, and I've listed a few of these here. There's Bleachyard, which is just the next townland after Barrack Hill, up the street here. And that's a curious one, because the Irish for bleachyards or bleach greens, which will appear in next week's Mayo News, is Tourine or Tour, because a tour is not a tower. A tour was actually a bleach yard or a bleach green. It was an area, it was meant to be a green area beside a river, where when people had finished washing their clothes in the stream of the river, they spread them out on the bleach green to dry, and that was known as a tour. And a small tour was a tourine, and so that's where the town name of Tourine comes from. And you have Tourmore and lots of other tours dotted all over the county. Wilford is one that I featured a few weeks back. That's only spoken of in English as well, because it actually commemorates an English person. It was called after a person, that townland originally, and it has nothing to do with sallies or willows. Sorry, with willows or willow trees or sally trees. It was actually named in honour of a person, and of course then we're all in Newport or Newport Pratt tonight. So I'm not going to delay too long on the next 4 or 5 slides. Suffice it to say that this is all of the town lands in Burrishoole parish listed in alphabetical order, and I've just summarised them in this Excel spreadsheet, so you can pick out your favourite one as I'm going along, and we can discuss it in the questions just afterwards. But I've chosen 1 or 2 tonight that are a little bit curious, and I'd just like to kind of go through them as examples. And the first one is a Canuck. It's a hill, and it's written in English as Uaile, which is an atrocious corruption of Canuck na Uaile, and this means the hill of the lime kiln. Okay, and it's located on a ridge of land about 20 metres high, a short distance east of here, along the Fahy Road. And the feminine word tinnel is a shortened version of a lime kiln or park of a lime kiln, tinnelach, and also tinnel of lime fire. But the forms are similar, so it's believed to derive from this. Lime fire then is meant here as a qualifier to the Canuck bit. The form in the genitive case of Uaile, with those forms rendered EW perhaps, it's noteworthy that it's written as V, an anglicisation or representation of V. So, and the other one then is Tawny na Milcho, or Tawnach na Milcho, which translates as the mountain field of the midges. Okay, of all things. And actually in Bracklin, which is outside of Westport, it's totally known as Midgefield, whereas originally it was Tawny na Milcho, but people that are living there now refer to the townland as Midgefield. And this seems to be a kind of a common trend in the Louisburg area, because there's a wood field out near Killeen, which shouldn't be Woodfield at all either, but because it has nothing to do with wood or field, it has a totally different meaning entirely. So you know, a lot of names get corrupted like that, as you can imagine. So Bleach Yard, which I've referred to already, can be rendered in Irish as close on Tour. The yard of the bleach green, we'd say, okay, from tour, which meanings can vary slightly, but the most commonly accepted one is the bleach green or the bleach yard. Graffy is a townland further down the road towards Mulrally. This comes from Graffy or grubland, graffa. It's an agricultural term for grubbing or taking off the surface of the lea. Kilogs, somebody asked me about kilogs recently. I think he's down the back there. Phil, hi Phil. Kiloga. In Limerick, there's a townland called Kilogs, and a man called Artón Uaile, who's on the Loganamnacha committee with Nolligo Morila. He renders this as being the place of osiers. Now, osiers are a form of willow tree that are not indigenous to Ireland. We have our native sally trees, and but osiers were actually brought in from outside. But more usually in Mayo, it's taken to mean narrow ridges, and it's kind of close then to tree or trail, which is of unknown origin. That's what the one who's Egginton means. Garrogene's probably the one who sorry, I'm sure you can all translate it. Treel Mountain, which is down then near Letterkeen. It's a stripe of land. Okay, so it's Ochels or Ochely means yew woods. Morava is a sandy coastal land area down near Mulrally. And Mina Finna is Mina Finna, the smooth green field of the white stone, which is a fair mouthful. And finally, then you have Leitrim itself, which means smooth or calm or quiet hillside. Okay, a wet, spewy hillside at that. So that's about all I really intended to say. And otherwise, I was just going to jog my own memory and jog your memories about the ones that I've already put up in Townland Tales and the Mayo News. The first one concerns Béla Craga, which is the inlet of the snipers or the plunderers, which is the bay that comes in to Mulranny, and that is in these are all in Burrishoole Townland. So that's why it got the title Snipers and Plunderers, because it deals with these townlands here. And the Rosses were covered back in August 2021. This was Belfarset on Curran Peninsula, and it's like Belfarset is basically Belfast, in translation, or Belfarishta. But it's a beautiful area to walk in, as many of you will know, and that's where the name Belfarset comes from. Glenamadhu then and Grainne Mountain, I had great fun visiting these two places, and Lough Curragh and Affron, which you can see there in the picture, is up behind the Mass Rock down at Bunahowan, isn't it, near Tirnar, which is a lovely area. But Glenamadhu is fairly easy translated, Glenamadhu, the Valley of the Dogs. Grainne then is a sunny place, prominent place on top of a hill. So that's what Grainne means. The lodge in the middle third comes from Trian Lore, which is the third in the middle third. A lot of place names are derived from Cathru, which means quarter. Cathru, which comes out as Cara or Caro, and you also have Trians, which are a third, and these were divisions of townlands that were when they were drawn up originally. Then Peter referred to Melcombe and the Irish name of Rusnabroher. So the Binghams obviously popularised the whole area as Melcombe and Melcombe House, but the original name was Rusnabroher, the promontory of the brothers. Then Wilford and Sally and Roy were covered in January of this year. There are three neighbouring townlands in Burrishoole, and on the way I have Keelogues, Shramore and Letterkeane, and one or two others. So that's it really, basically. Thank you for your attention, and if there's any questions or any discussion that would like to take place now, I'd be happy to take any questions.
County Ogon.
County Ogon. Well, it could be Hogan's arable field, green field. County Ogon. I know it. McGowan actually translates it as the field of the soft ground. So just
on the Ogon.
Right, yeah. Is that would that be your original interpretation of it?
Went over to what you call
Porrick-O'Moran, that's what he translated it as.
That chapter at the back of that book, you see.
Yes, yeah.
The history of Burrishoole.
I know, yeah.
It's very worthwhile.
It's very good. The one, that's probably several, but the one that he does have a little bit of controversy over is Glenamoo. Now, Tom and myself have walked there, and like on all the maps, modern maps, it's Glenamong, Mwing, and Mwing is a swamp. But Porrick, Lord Reston, was adamant that it was the Glen of the Cows, Glenamoo. So I don't know, how do people feel about that? I mean, would you actually prepare to support Porrick, or like there's an awful lot of names like Mwing and Mong and Mugan in Eris. I think that there are quite a number, and they all
It's still
refer to
boggy
Stirling.
ground, isn't it?
Boggy, it's still boggy ground,
So
exactly.
you wouldn't have many cows out in boggy ground.
Oh, you would not, exactly, yeah. So, yeah, I rest my case. So.
I think locally we would have preferred Portico.
No, you would, yeah. No doubt, Chris, yeah. I know, I'm sure.
Question.
Yes,
What
Joe.
about aging or dating townlands? For example, Bleachard, I would have associated with the linen industry.
Yes, yeah.
With Captain Pratt.
Yes, indeed, yeah.
And
Absolutely.
Another one that's very interesting, which you mentioned tonight, Mina Clough-Finney.
Yes.
Right. Okay, so go up there and you will, not today because weather has changed things,
Okay.
but if there was turf cut, which I believe there probably was, the stones underneath would have been exposed
Yes.
and would have been poisoned by the acidic qualities of the turf.
Sure. Yeah.
And therefore, a local looking at it saying, oh, we're up there in the Mina Clough-Finney.
The white stones. Yeah.
So-
yeah.
That could be possibly dated to, for example, around turf cutting times
Yes. Yeah.
in the 19th century.
Yeah.
So what I'm curious about is, do you have any ideas? I mean,
No, well,
each townland might have different associations and dates.
of course, and it's very important to visit the particular townland that you're studying at the time. I felt you have to, because this was something that Robinson showed me. Tim Robinson, who wrote the 3 excellent volumes on Connemara and 2 on Arran. It was only when he actually visited the townland and got a feel for the place, you know what I mean, got a sense of the place, that he realised what he was looking for. There's a classic one where there's a big white stone like the rump of a horse, for example, in Connemara. I think it's out near Claddaduff or somewhere there. But anyway, it was mistranslated up until the time that he actually saw the big rock itself, and then it was obvious to him that it was like a horse, and that's why the townland was that name, So yeah, you have to go to the place itself and get a feel for it, look around, see what kind of rivers and streams there are there, and whatever the toponyms are there that made sense of the name originally. So yeah, it's very, very, very important to do that.
Have you got a translation for Glenlara or Glenlara as it's called locally?
Well, anything with Dara is
Lara.
Oh, sorry, Glenlara.
Yeah.
Lara is a mayor. Yeah, as far as I know. Yeah, Glenlara.
So the middle Glen, no?
Lore is middle.
Yeah.
Glenlara. I know Glenlara up near Eris
Maybe
Head.
it is Laura then. Maybe it would, because it would be the middle. It's kind of between Bucca and sort of Nathan.
Between Nathan and Bucca, is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It could be the middle Glen, the middle
Yeah.
valley. Yeah, absolutely. If you go up to Eris Head, just beyond Balmullet, the townland that loop walk starts from is called Glenlara, and that's translated as the Mayor's Glen.
You see, in the general place like Glenora, it would be like Father Yard,
Yes,
I suppose
yes.
middle, but still you never know, like in the older, maybe grammar, it might be Glenora. I don't know.
Everything gets corrupted. I mean, the classic one was Moista sound, and Ilon Moisture. That was kind of what got me going on this whole thing originally. Tom was laughing. I mean, I still to this day maintain that it's from the Irish word for the turf, the surf, the swirling surf, whereas like all the experts, they contend it's the Master's Island, so I don't know, who knows. I mean, these things they've come down through the annals that, it's just come down through history, and they get corrupted so often, and the spelling changes, the meaning changes, so it's very difficult to know for sure. Sure.
We're looking at Shriwork up there, and it's the
Okay.
Try of the confluence.
Yes.
I don't understand the answer.
You don't.
I don't understand the answer.
You don't understand the translation. Well, all Shras are strats, or they're riparian areas beside rivers.
Okay.
Okay. The English word is the nearest English word. I think is Holm. Is it Holm or a strat? So on Corrick of the confluence, it must be where two streams collide or two streams meet. Is it?
Okay. Well, there's a kind of Fidon that goes into Big River, so maybe.
Fidon is a stream.
That's why.
Yeah, because we looked at, or I looked at Fidon Nagirog, which is down near past letter Keene. It's on the way to Keena, Fidon Nagirog. I actually was down there. RTE actually made a film for young children down in Fidon Nagirog. You know, they were wild camping. It was some there was a man brought them out and showed them how to camp in the wild and light fires and survive in the wild and introduced them to all of the stuff. But that was actually filmed down near Fidon Nagirog. So while I was there, I got talking to the local people that lived there, and I just asked them, like, were there any special studies made of the beetles, you know, around the stream? Because Kirog is a beetle. And I even contacted not an etymologist, an entomologist, an insect expert, to see was there like a special beetle that was actually indigenous to the area, you know, that gave it its name. And she said that she was going to check it out for me, but I never heard back from her afterwards, so I don't know whether she did that or not. But it's curious, like it's called Fidon Nagirog, which is the stream of the beetles, so there must be some reason, there must be some significance to the name.
Somebody once told me Corrick was battle, that's why I was asking.
Corrick is battle, is it?
Yeah, Corey.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, Corey, yeah.
Bella Corrick.
At the back of the Corey, yeah, Corey,
Okay.
yeah, battle.
Okay.
Well, Crumpon, the Crumpon River in Glenhest, where? Crumpon.
Crumpon is just a hilly place.
Some people call it Crumpons, you know, the remains of these old oak.
All right.
I don't know.
Oak roots, is it?
Yeah, I don't know whether
Okay.
anybody else. The Crumpon, no, I don't know. Is it right?
Yeah, you could be on something there, because lumpy place is what the word I meant to use there actually. So no, it could be that. I mean, the lumps could have grown over years, you know, from the roots, you know, like the bog deal.
Yeah, the bog deal.
Yeah, you know, the tussocks, stuff like that. So I probably don't have that one because it's not a townland. But like that's what I'm saying. He has so many. No, it's not there. But these are just the townland names. But he has so many other toponyms, you know, like that. Where did you say that was?
And the river out to Glenhest.
Down to Glenhest. Okay. The Crumpon River.
Yeah.
That's in a different parish, though.
Okay.
Well, it's between Glenhest for going on a bit of it. I mean, it's kind of a border one.
Yeah. Oh, we're interested in all baronies here, people. Not just your special Burrishoole, you know. No, any other ones? Does anyone else want to bring
Are
up?
there any Norman influences? Obviously there's Irish and English, but what about
Norman? Yeah.
before Anglo-Norman?
Pre-Anglo-Saxon Norman, pre-Anglo. Not that I can think of off the top of my head now, to be honest.
Joe just mentioned Burgage, really, the borough.
Oh, Burgage, yeah, Burgage would be an Norman.
Also,
Would
you
it be?
mentioned as well, Carroll,
Carroll, yes, yeah.
That's the Norman.
Okay.
Fours, quarters. But
Very good.
actually, John, there's something. I was watching a program. Was it last night or that before about Brian Freeman?
Yes.
Right, and
Yeah.
they talked about his play
Translations, yeah.
And I mean, the core of that play is a complete incorrect.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, rendition of what happened. In fact, right? Where in the play translations, you know, the Ordnance Survey went up and were busy translating all the names, putting all the names into English. Like, for example, the one that was mentioned was Bunowen or Bunnahoen. You know, it was translated as Burnfoot.
Yeah.
You know, and so on. And they were saying this is going right there. So that didn't happen. I mean, as you can see, there are all those names on the left.
Yes.
At the Ordnance Survey, that I suppose John O'Donovan mainly
Would have come up with.
they're Irish names, you know. It's just a phonetic rendition.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, they changed them very little. No, you're dead
So
right.
like,
Yeah, it's true.
they did us a service really, because if they hadn't done that, a lot of the names might have disappeared, you know. They kind of
Absolutely.
fossilized it all in
Yeah.
1930.
Yeah. Because we're so unique, really, in the country. We were mapped so closely that like it's only ourselves and the Hebrides, or the outer islands of Scotland. They're the only places, as you know, that there are townlands. And yeah, I mean, it's just brilliant that they were all recorded. And I mean, Tim Robinson talks about, you know, colonial reparation, like for bringing them all back to Irish. But like as you said, there's very little difference. They're just phonetic renditions of
A lot of people kind of give out about it.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
I know. Yeah.
You know, there's one that I always remember down in Connemara, Inish Muckin the Gahalia.
Oh yeah.
You know, like
It
it's
is
just a big long word with about 30 letters in it. Inish Muckin, but it's an Inish Muckin either between, you know, it's a
The
salty.
two salty inlets. Yeah.
But it's a fair enough kind of version, you know, and it's saved for posterity, you know, and you can then people like you can come along and sort of.
Yeah, like Skerry Gohifrin is another one out in Killery, you know. Skerry Gohifrin, like that's very close to.
Tommy and me talk, you know.
Yeah.
That's the only example of one where there's actually a translation beside it, an English translation, Litchfield.
Yeah. It's one of the few. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, this is Paddy Duffy of the Westport Civic Trust. Paddy and I are both members of the Westport Civic Trust, and Paddy was, for his sins, was a lecturer in geography for many years in Maynooth, and a colleague of Nullick's, weren't you? You knew Nullick, yeah, that's right.
Have you walked around the Barney Lake, John?
The Barney Lake, and that's on the Western Way, John, is it?
It's that on the
The
Western Way.
one where the three Barneys coincide, isn't
Yes.
it? Yeah. It's on the Bangor Trail.
It's
One or other, I mean.
yeah.
I've been near it. Yeah, I have been near it. Yeah, an interesting point, like
If you walked around it, you'd be in 3 Barneys.
Barneys, yeah, in the space of a few
If you
minutes.
swim in it, John, you swim in all the Baronies at once.
You've probably done that, Jed, have you? I like it. How to swim in 3 Baronies in 4 uneasy lessons. Sean.
Areas are pronounced can change from place to place.
Very much so.
For say, if you take Duff Bag, if that was in Newport, they'd call it Duff Bag.
Yeah, that's right.
Duach.
Duach, exactly, yeah. I know, it was interesting.
A small sandy bank.
Michael Viney mentioned it in his final column last Saturday. Again, Duachta, you know, which in Donegal would be, it would come from marron grass, you know, isn't that right? From Machair, Machair, the grass, but which gets corrupted to Maharees, for example, in Kerry, and Mahari and Mahara. There's a Mahara in Clare, there's a Maharee in Donegal. They're all to do with Duachtri. Well, no, Duachtri is a sandy bank, you're right, but it's also the area that's covered in the Machair in Lewisburg.
Would that be the same for Lesser Mahara then?
Same thing. It would be Jed, yeah. Lecture Mahara, the wet spewy hillside of the. Probably, I would think.
Off the Mahara?
No, I don't think so. No, that's different now. That would be different, I'd say. Lecture Mahara, what does he say? Well, Macquarie hillside of the field. You calls it a field. So like, I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of, I suppose, applying the specific term for the machair that grows in the coastal areas, you know, to just any field. But that, yeah, I don't. There's a question mark on it.
Yeah.
So like, that means he wasn't 100% sure.
Maybe
you know?
the similarities with the Millennia grass, that kind of, the Millennia grass, that kind of.
Maybe, yes,
similar sort of.
yeah, maybe same species, or same, yeah, close enough, or related species of grass, yeah, possibly, yeah. Have you been up there?
Yeah.
And is there millennia grass growing there?
Yeah.
Sure, I know, we just have to check, like, yeah. That's the beauty of it, like, you know, it's.
I will look out for it next time,
Yeah, me too.
Is that yours mean? Is that the only townland with that in his mail? Like, it's very common in Donegal.
It's the only one in Burrishoole, Sean.
Yeah.
These are only in Burrishoole. Yeah, you're right. It would be. Yeah, I mean, is common in Donegal. Is it? Yeah. It's the only one. That's the only one here, though. Yeah.
Do you know what furnace was called before it was furnace?
Furnace. No, I don't.
Is-
I don't.
Would you scroll up there? I think it's Knockanoor is the hill of the iron, isn't it? But there was somebody that was.
Iron it'd be
What's the
iron,
word?
but Ur is you.
Oh,
Ur
okay.
is you trace.
Is that what it says on that?
No, Furnace has always been Furnace. Funnily enough. Am I right? Let me see now.
On Furnace.
On the Furnace.
Yeah.
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 I don't know. These are all now from Fiacre McDonald's, Logan and Macrobi, because I've taken it from those. Sorry. Any used to